Hi, guys. Hope y'all are having a great day. Jeff, hello to Newfoundland. James Singer, hello to South Carolina. Let's see. Paladin, hello to Northeast Florida. Jeff, hello to North Carolina. Charles Martin, doing pretty good, actually. James Singer, good evening. 2020, good evening. You had wet snow last night. Awesome. We had days in the upper 80s down here. 2020, hello there. Carlos, good evening. Gary, how y'all doing? Big E, the Knife Nut, good evening. Randy Robbins, hello there. Keep all three, good evening. Gray Wolf, hey, you got it. You made it. Well, now, hey, it was like 56 or so whenever, 6:56 local time for me. So that was close to the 7 o'clock. Yeah, it's I've been running around trying to get some stuff done, and Hiram, good evening. You know how it is. I mean, it's springtime. You're trying to get. I've discovered I have tomato plants. I haven't planted tomato plants in 4 years, and this will be the third year that wild tomato plants left over from my last year sprouted. So this is the third. That'd be the fourth generation. We planted these big cherry tomatoes in buckets, and of course, whenever a bird got one or something, it fell down into the potting soil, and I didn't turn over my potting soil. I left it at the end of the season. And then in spring, I went out there and I decided I'm not going to do tomatoes. And I had 11 tomato plants came up. And so I had tomatoes. And I said, okay, I'm not doing it again next year. And this is the third year. Now I've got 4 about that high tomato plants out there right now. So now I'll go and replant them into a bigger bucket, into a bucket with fresh soil in it and everything. So I'll take a big handful of dirt out with them and transfer it over. So I guess I'm running tomatoes again this year. We shall see. Yeah, Gray Wolf, we've got, I saw my first, which we call them blackberries, but it's really dewberries. It's on the brambles down here. And I saw a bright red one on the way to my mailbox, and right next to it was a black one. So it'll be time to get the buckets out and go picking some, what we call blackberry, which actually is a dewberry. Tastes like blackberry. And see if I can get up enough to make jelly or something out of it. We shall see. Satchmo, good evening. I talked to Bear. Bear should be in here in a minute. And he said his sourdough starter, he started, we did a video about it today, and he said he got home and it had obviously got a little different than he planned. So we shall see how that works. You know how that goes. Kodak, good evening. Cool, Gray Wolf. Okay, Carlos, Blackie, do a comparison video between the blackbird and the gray man. I will do it. Now, it's going to be a little bit because I'm doing my full time. It'll be October is when I will either go back to my blackbird, which I probably will just out of nostalgia and everything else. But I have really enjoyed using the gray man. I mean, really have. It being a straight edge, a big cap art design. It's very useful, and I haven't felt unarmed at all with it. I'm quite happy with it. Do I miss my curves a little bit? Yeah, but that was the thing. I'd been using that curve blade for, 5 years or more. When you count in the length of time I used my original prototype knife, that was the prototype for so many knives, and then the actual blackbird. So between the two, I probably got 8 or 9, almost 10 years. Probably is 10 years now by using those curved knives. And so going back to a straight knife It was just a mental readjustment, but I've done fine with it. I enjoy that knife. It's really, really good. Will, how do you like the Dancing Brothers revolver? I don't have one, but I have fired one, and they're very nice. They're simple. It is a little bit concerning to me because it doesn't have the recoil shield on the back, and that would mean if you did drop it, there is the possibility a cap could go off if it hit just right on the corner. But other than that, they're historically correct guns. They're accurate, and they shoot very well. So I think that the one I shot, I really enjoyed it. You know, it'd be nice to add to the collection. Gray Wolf, yeah, it took a little bit of work to get the Uberti to fit onto the Pieta. There's slight differences between the two. But like you said, it normally, if you put enough time and elbow grease, you can get them together. And I have seen several Funkensteins before because the Uberti has the rammer that's got the proper inset for a conical bullet. And so I've seen a lot of people take the Uberti and put it onto the rammer on the Pieta so they'd have the proper one to shoot, like Arrows Gone, Bullet Molds, Johnson and Dow, conical bullets and stuff like that. So works really well. Gray Wolf, Blackie, I watched your Rogers and Spencer content recently. Do you still have it? Are you pleased with it? Absolutely. I really, really like that gun. And it shoots well. And like I said, hello, Buckeye. That's what shocked me whenever I got it because I had read about them, you know. And I always just mentally put it in the 58 Remington size, you know. And then I got the gun and realized the chamber capacity on it. Nobody ever mentioned it's got a Dragoon-like chamber capacity in this thing. Nobody that I ever read, and it said anything like that. And just, wow. And so it will take the exact same charge as my Dragoon will. And so that was a real eye-opener. So it gives you all, so if you're looking for a fixed frame Dragoon, the Roger and Spencer is it. Jerry, hello, Jerry Dehart, hello there. Patriot Preacher, good evening. Justin, hello, brother. Okay, brother, but thank you for dropping in, Justin. Hope it works out with you. Grimmer, hello to Reykjavik, Iceland. Thank you for dropping in. Wow, Gary, Blackie, I have an 81 millimeter mortar container. What do you think of a survival kit? We buried those a lot in the past, especially ones that seal up good and tight, and bury them in a little bit of gravel. They'll last for decades. We would take the metal ones, that was the big one with the big end that you lock in, and we would paint it to eliminate any rust, and then we would coat it with roofing tar, that stuff you patch the roof with, make sure it's fully covered in that tar. And then we would seal the seal up with silicone real good. Kind of like the soft silicone, not the one that's the adhesive, but the silicone adhesive, not adhesive, but lubricant. And keep that seal real good. And we would bury it with the lid was to the bottom, so water couldn't pool up and sink in. And we would dig a shaft, put it in, and gravel all the way around it. And then we put a topper of gravel on it and put sand or whatever on it. Easy to get it out of the ground. And so I know a lot of guys that put those 81 millimeter mortar tubes in the ground for emergency survival kits and stuff like that at favorite camping areas and stuff like that, so you can come out and retrieve it easy and have stuff when the world goes sideways. Andy Knight, hello to South Georgia. Mitch, Blackie, when you drove trucks, what was the coldest place you ever been? Mount Washington. It's either in New Hampshire or something like that. It was the coldest place. And when I put a radar unit up there on top of it, it was like 60 below. It's where several mountain chains dump all their wind, so to speak, right there, and it acts like a Venturi effect. And so it's the highest recorded winds ever recorded that wasn't a tornado, 300 plus mile an hour. It ripped the thing off the top of the building. And the coldest place in the lower 48 ever recorded. And I was up there at like 60 below, where it's 40 something at the bottom of the mountain. But this cold Arctic air was flowing through up there, and when you went up the mountain, you thought you went into a deep freeze going up that mountain. So coldest I've been. Blackie, how do you make number 36 bank line more pliable? You can unwind a couple of strands of it to make it more pliable, but since it's tarred bank line, it's always going to be a little stiff. But if you're wanting to make it to be something I can easier work with, you can always dip it into boiling water and put it in boiling water for just a few seconds, pull it out, and then start flexing it, and where it's tarred stuck together, make that tar loose again, and it'll start flowing around. You can get it a little more pliable that way. I've seen people make hat bands that way, but that's about the best I can tell you. Eric, have you used a slingshot for fun and hunting? Yes, when I was a young man, I did. One of the first wrist rockets that came out, I had. And I took small game with it and got fairly good with it. But then I discovered firearms and kind of drifted away from slingshots. Bob, hello there. Jeff, you mentioned the Kephart style knife. What do you think of the Nesmunk style knife? The Nesmunk knife is a very good camp knife for cooking and stuff like that. The curve of the blade and that hump on the back, when you start using it around a skillet to cook, and if you really read between the lines what Nesmunk's doing, you can see why he's doing that for. Tins, cans. A lot of his food was in cans. And so he's using that hump on the back to clean out the inside of a can and get all the food out. That hump is really good also to help you flip over pancakes and meat and stuff in a pan. And so as a camp knife, it works well. As a bushcraft knife, it's a little awkward, but it can work. But it's really, really good around a fire, sitting there cooking and stuff like that. I've used them in Dutch ovens. I've used them in skillets, everything else. I made one where I took a buffalo skinner, a Russell Green River buffalo skinner, and just cut it off and reground it. I believe that's what Nesmunk did, although I know he had somebody make it, but that's exactly what it looks like. And like, again, using it as a camp knife, it works very well. Charles Martin, I understand. Did you like the paracord, like the bank line better? Jonathan Frisbee's Fearless Journey. Hello, brother. Thank you for dropping in. Will, do you still use your cold steel hawking machete? Still do. Got them hanging up right over here. And quite a bit, actually. Ellis, good evening. Well, hello to Cal Tipper to Louisiana. Buck 110, hello to Rome, Georgia. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for dropping in. Yeah, just you can't see them hardly because that's in the way. But my knives and my tomahawks and all are hanging up right in there. And in fact, I had my cold steel out yesterday, trimming up around the yard. You know, I don't just use this stuff for classic bushcraft. I use it, you know. And so the wife comes up and she wants to cut things along the ground. I have a 4-foot sword. It's a machete. You remember the movie Conan the Barbarian? Remember the archer, Subutai? He had this sword that kind of flared like a falcata and had a little bit, and it was 4 feet long. When the movie was over, Atlanta Cutlery sold them There were actual swords, they're actual spring steel, they're made in India. And they sold all the extras, and me and Grouch ended up with one. Because to us, it was a two-handed machete that was 4 feet long. And you can clear a path with a 4-foot machete. And so if Mama wants a machete, I give her that one because it'll hit the ground. She can't hit her leg with it easily because it's going to hit the ground before it hits her leg. Whereas my machete is short and a razor, and I don't want her using it because if she overwhacks or whatever, it's going to hurt. And so I maintain. And the kukri, I'll give her my cold steel kukri because it's lighter and it doesn't have so much follow through. And if you're cutting something up here, I'll let you use that. But you can't cut nothing below your waist with it. And as long as she'll do that, we're okay. Oh, man. Jonathan, I'm sorry. Yeah, I ran away because we got the old Blackfoot pony to fire up, and she went running rough, and I had to run. And she got me to within 8 miles of home, and she stopped. Bless her little pea-picking heart. She made it that far, and her alternator had gone out. So she did 40-something miles on a dead alternator. She got me almost home. Bless her little heart. So she's got a brand new alternator sitting in her front seat, and that will be put in this weekend. And but that's the reason I had to get out of there and hurry. But I'll see you this fall, brother. I'll sign it for you then. Yes, Bruce Martin, exactly. I've just, like I said a while ago, when I went to get my mail out of my mailbox, I saw my first ones have turned right there in my yard. So it's about time to get the bucket and start looking. Jeff, what length kukri would you recommend? I like something about between 13 and 15 inches, something like that. That's enough mass to do the cutting and enough weight. And mine is you can look how thick they are. Mine is I believe the word is chetlangi. No. Chetlangi is a thin one. Champura. It's thick. It means chopper, i.e. a hatchet. So mine is almost a ½ inch thick at the back. That's what I recommend because you can baton with it, you can cut with it, you can split with it, you can do all the digging and everything else with it. It's just a perfect woods tool, and I really enjoy it. Buckeye Bushcraft, thank you very much. I'm glad you like it, brother. Be sure to send me a picture of it. I want to see it when you get it all outfitted. Yeah, Jonathan, exactly. All three of us get to sign it. Eric, what's your take on crossbows? Crossbows can be very effective for quiet hunting, especially if somebody doesn't have the upper body strength or coordination to use this, being able to cock it and leave it cocked, so to speak. Crossbows can be a very, very good hunting tool and can are very effective for self-defense for one target at a time. But for quite a few years in Alabama, you weren't allowed to have a crossbow unless you were handicapped or something. They have since repealed that. And so now you can have a crossbow, but you can't put a scope on it. You can put an aim point, but no magnification because they don't want somebody trying to lob one, 150 yards at you, put a ridiculous power and try to use an arrow for artillery. But they can be very, very viable. A blowgun is very, very viable once you put your time in with it for small game and stuff. One of them darts, those blowguns like they sell from Cold Steel, they are not toys. And in living history, I used a blowgun that was river cane bamboo with rabbit fur darts on wooden shafts, and I could bury it like an inch or 2 inches into a pine tree. I mean, we took small game, rabbits, squirrels, things like that with them. And the blowgun, the crossbow are all viable hunting tools. It's just how much time and effort you want to put into it. Once you get into primitive weapons and see what you can do with a rabbit stick, what you can do with a bow and arrow, what you can do with a crossbow, etc., guns are cheating. It just seems like there's no challenge to that. So, Tad, Blackie, when are you going to do another run on the Haversacks and the Red Hot? Starting this Saturday. I'm going to do the official announcement this Saturday, but down in my description box, I got the place. Go to, and it's Scalp Hunter 36330. There's already some people already that sent me an email there. I will do the official video for Saturday announcing the new run. They will be delivering in July for this particular run. So if you want to go ahead and put one in there tonight, I will get in there tomorrow and clean out. And anybody that's already sent a list, I'll go ahead and send them stuff and let them have a little bit of a head start. So see if you can get in there. Carlos, could you rent a camper van in my area? There's a place in Dothan, Alabama called Camping World or Camper World. Check with them. I think they rent campers down there. You may want to try there. So that's the best I can tell you. I really don't know beyond that. Elrod, glad it's Thursday. Randy Robbins, I hear you. Hey, cool, Buckeye. Glad to hear it. Something that may or may not apply to you, Buckeye. I've made up these before. Now, forget the highlighters in it. But what it is, it's so you can make stuff because my strap comes loose. You can make stuff to go onto the strap. And this is a 12 gauge 3-shell holder that it's just a hollow tube. See, slide that on the strap and you can put whatever on here. And I've got guys that have sent me videos and pictures where they have made little pockets like this that just a sheath to put their phone into, or to put a compass in, or a special knife like a certain carving knife or whatever that they can just slide onto the haversack and have it quick and handy, and then be able to take it off when you don't need it. And so that's one of the little things. I need to do a whole series of add-ons that you can do for that, for different pouches and stuff that would add on to it just to dial it in a little bit more. I've talked to Jay and I've talked to Trinity about it, and we've kind of back and forth some ideas. So maybe this fall we'll see about bringing out some more stuff to go into the haversack. Oh, cool. Gray Wolf. Yeah, come on down. Come on down. That would be awesome to get to see you. That would be great. Don't want to have to put it on a ferry. I hear you. Well, I tell you, Gray Wolf, don't laugh. Dan Lutz was pushing for me and him to go to Alaska, because I've never been to Alaska. And he said, but, it'd be so expensive. How are we going to get around up there? And I don't, what are we going to do? I said, what I recommend we do? Yeah, rent a U-Haul. What? We'll fly into some place like Anchorage and we'll rent a U-Haul, one of them small little U-Hauls, and we'll rent it for a week and we'll do it like a little camper. We can sling hammocks in the back of that thing. Got a roll-up door. We'll just get us somebody up there. We'll ship our camping gear up to them. Once it's arrived and they say, yes, it is, then a couple days later, we'll fly up, we'll rent the U-Haul, use our camping gear, use the U-Haul like a pseudo camper, go around and do what we want to do. And then when we get ready to come home, we'll ship our stuff back home and turn in the camper and fly back. How about that? Instead of trying to get an expensive camper up there. So that was a redneck down and dirty idea. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about running the Alaska Highway. But hey, next week they pick their new leader up there. So maybe some of that stuff will settle down by the gathering. Mr. John Pinkard, paint's in the house. Hello, brother. Tad, Blackie, are you 100% back from your stroke? I feel about 95%, to be honest. There are times I feel kind of, but for the most part, I'm doing really good. I'm staying active. My health seems to be stabilized out. I'm taking the medications at the doctor's. The only concern that we have at this time is heat. We don't know. Part of the brain that has been affected is, they think, a place that helps regulate your body temperature. You know, well, I went all the way through the winter and never really felt cold. I felt a little cool, but never felt cold. I even camped and did everything, and I never felt truly cold all winter. And so the concern is, now that we're going into the heat of summer, will I sweat? You know, or will I be somebody really gonna have a problem with heat stroke? We don't know. We're taking that step by step. When we had my gathering, it did get warm enough a day. I did sweat just a little, which was a huge thing for me to make sure I could physically sweat, because it's where the body will regulate itself. Because I really don't want to have to become a hermit that has to hide in air conditioning, you know, especially where I live. I'll have to move up there with Gray Wolf and go to Alaska where it's not so hot all the time. But we're going to take it. I'm taking it day by day. And thank you very much for asking. Hey, Buckeye, sure, please do. Hit me up on Facebook, because I think I have one. I think. We'll see. Christopher Evans, good evening. Hey, yeah, Buckeye, yeah. You got 3 right there. Slide them in for shells to go on the strap, quick and easy. Yeah, Jeff, you're up there. Steve Kingsbury, good evening, brother. Correct, Gray Wolf. That's one of the reasons I said it. Use a U-Haul, and if it breaks down, you call them and say, bring me another one. You know, all I got to do is pay for gas on it, you know, and pay for the week. And those, you're going to do a little local type thing, it's $19 for a day. Yeah, I can handle that, you know, compared to the God at the rent a car or something. And something that actually could get off road a little bit. Not talking about 4-wheel drive, but, you know. Slingshot Warrior, good evening. Diane, good evening. Glad to see you. Yeah, Jonathan, that'd be cool to do a business trip up to Alaska. Well, hello there, Big Jim from New Hampshire. Welcome to the thing. Common Sense Karen, hello there. Yeah, Monday. Monday's the election. Hope that goes well for Canada. John, thank you very much. Tad, just curious, do you ever do a collaboration with Dave Canterbury? Not directly, but me and Dave do work back and forth, you know, as far as talk to each other and share ideas and stuff. We haven't done a collaborative type thing, but that doesn't mean that we haven't sat there and talked out ideas together and stuff, you know. In fact, the last camp out I went to down in Florida was I went down there to hang out with the Pathfinder group, and we talked products and everything else. He's got a lot of great ideas for things that's coming. And, but we haven't done a collaboration. I wouldn't mind doing it. Be glad to work with him on anything. But, that, you know, we haven't per se collaborated. Oh, I hear you, Gray Wolf. I know it's they want to head south. Trust me, you go south of Tallahassee, and almost the entire state of Florida is Yankees that have retired down there. The vast majority. You got to hunt to find a local, and I don't have a problem with that. But they think they'll retire down there, and it'll be better. Yes, it's better. Yes, it's cheaper. But let Blackie give you a bit of information. Retire to Alabama, not to Florida. Florida is set up to tax and nickel and dime you for the HOs and everything else to get the retirees money. And then once they got your money, they kick you out. You can't live here. Come to Alabama. You can find a plot of land, a house, everything much more reasonable. You can get insurance. You can't get hurricane insurance south I-10 because it's going to get run over by major hurricanes. Come to Alabama. You'll be amazed at what is offered. And down here in Alabama, according to the NTSB, the best roads in the United States are in Alabama. I can believe it. We got a lot of really good stuff down here. So for those that are wanting to retire and move south, look at Alabama. Don't look at Florida. I got nothing against Florida, but they're going to sit and tax you to death down there. I have good friends that left Birmingham area here in Alabama and moved down there near Ocala to work in a hospital. And they were going to be paid $30,000 a year in salary. And 2 years later, even though they were paid $30,000 more, they had less money than they did up here, and they were being nickel and dimed to death. It was always got to pay this, that bill, this tax. And they finally, after 2 years, packed up and came back to Alabama because they just could not afford to live down there. So there's my little public affairs idea. Sling warriors throwing spears and axes yesterday. Cool. Charles Martin, yeah, the little small ones that's got the small pickup on the front and then the body around the back, and it's got a pass-through door between the cab and into the back. Those make really good little improvised camper, especially if you'll jack it up just a little bit and put better tires on it. You'll never make it off-road, but you know what I mean. You can get a little bit more ground clearance on them. And I've seen several of those converted into fishing camps and things like that. So. Po' Boy Adventures. Well, come on down. We'd love to see you at the gathering. Oh, Jerry, yeah. That's when you met us. That's right. Slingshot Word, good evening. Paladin, hello there. Ground Fog, good evening. Brett Johnson, what are the taxes like in Alabama? A lot less. I can't give you the exact numbers, but it's a lot less, And we don't have vehicle inspections. You have just about anything you can get that you'd want down here. If you want to be in a big city, we got big cities, but I suggest you don't move to a big city. Move close enough to a big city you can run in there if you need something, but you'll do a lot better outside. Jeff Conley, message from the Alabama Department of Tourism. No, I'm just proud of my state. Oh, Gray Wolf. Yeah, I remember that. I did a video on that. Yeah, I was trying to reply, and Dave challenged me and said, do a video. So I took my 50 caliber flintlock, went out and loaded it with shot and showed you how to shoot it. I remember that. On a snowshoe. That'd be cool. Dale, good evening. Well, hello to, I want to say Cosmonaut Osaka. Hello to Chile. And I'm glad I helped. I hope you have many, many, many adventures yet to come. Eric, will you be more gatherings with James Bender? Yeah, we've talked about it. Last year I ran everywhere, and me and James were talking about doing a joint thing at his land at some point, and it just didn't happen last year. It still on the books. I mean, I really like James, enjoy working with James. And I've got a lot of friends now up in that part of the woods, up in the Ohio and Kentucky area and etc. And I'm thinking about maybe going up and spending like a month, like spend a week here, spend a couple of days here, spend a couple of days there with friends and family up in that neck of the woods instead of trying to run back and forth so much. But we'll work it out. After I had my stroke, I kind of backed off everything, try to heal up. And the big question was my gathering, if I could make it all the way through that and not have a problem. And I did. So I'm feeling a lot more confident. And so I'm going next weekend. I'm going to over here to Georgia to the Georgia Budget Bushcraft camp out at, I believe it's called Paradise Public Fish Area. I'm going to go over and camp out. And then we're going to see. It's just taking it day by day about possibly getting back to doing some traveling. John Pankard, loving my new tent, putting in a plug for Kaufman's. Awesome, brother. It's done growing. Bear's starting some sourdough starter. It's already grew that much. You got to divide it up. Elvin, good evening. Fred, hello there. Hello to Luverne. Wayne, hello, Wayne from Luverne. Gray Wolf, Bear, Gray Wolf is giving you a few pointers on sourdough about cooling them off. Cool. Figured somebody from Alaska would be an old sourdough. We did a video today that you'll be seeing soon, Old Ways number 69. And we were talking about that. And sourdough is just never my favorite. It's good. It just was never my favorite. And a lot of that, I think, was the person that was doing the sourdough that I was around liked more of the sour taste. They really liked that. And so the sourdough pancakes were kind of sour tasting to me. And it just wasn't something that, I'd eat it, but it just wasn't, But it can be really, really good. It can be something that's well done. I understand about using it as a leavening. So get your hat squared away there, son. When you're looking on a camera, everything's backwards, Fred Preber, glad you enjoyed it. There's another Haversack video coming, and we're making the Nomad. And so I'm in the process right now of making it so that at the beginning of the video, I can hold it up and show you we're making this and show you all the features. And then we will go step by step the making of that haversack. So you got to make it for me to show it, to be able to show you how to make it. So I got a lot of filming and a lot of editing to do. But I'm in the process of it, and I'll show it to you as quick as I can. Carlos, Blackie, you should do a gathering at the WC shop. Well, actually, William has asked me to come to Texas. And I know that Justin would love me to come to Texas, and William wants me to come to Texas. And Sarge Denning would like to meet me and us sit and talk a little bit. So there's several people out there in Texas, and Texas is no farther away than Ohio. And so I've thought about it. We'll see if we can make it happen. A poncho tent. Cosmonaut, look at that One Wind rain cloak. It makes a very usable small tent tarp that sits up and surrounds you on three sides, and yet is a full rain cloak, and yet it rolls up that small. I've done several videos on it. It's not very heavy, and it's very light and handy. So it might be something you want to look at. Sir Malcolm, good evening. Hike with Mike. Hello to the swamps of Florida. Oh, Elrod. Bear, did you see that? Elrod said there is a website that will send you a dry sample of a sourdough starter that crossed the country on the Oregon Trail. Hey, pretty good. Oh, keeping and maintaining sourdough starter, there's kitchen witchcraft. I mean, I can remember root cellars and storage areas that had sourdough starter, that had certain pickles that had to age so long. There were peppers. There were all kinds of kitchen chemistry going on to make these absolutely wonderful meals. And it was a well-earned title in my family was kitchen witch, because they could start with this and create that. And it was intricate knowledge, almost like alchemy, of knowing how to do breads and all kinds of stuff, and get different subtle taste changes and things, and all like that. It was a kitchen witch. And one of my aunts was, her sisters would kind of throw it at her every so often, but she was a kitchen witch because she was the best cook of the bunch. Jeff Alexander, good evening to Maryland. Washburn Billy, good evening. Cosmonaut, go look at that one. It's light, it's compact, it's ready to go, and it fits in my haversack. It's what I normally carry in my haversack as a rain and emergency shelter. So take a look at it. And it's not that expensive either. And two of them will zip together to form a fancier, bigger shelter. So, okay, Charles Martin, yeah, you had one with a zipper in the hood. Bruce Martin, Pensacola here. Yeah, $225 in addition, and $400 make a vehicle legal. I can believe it. Like I said, Florida nickel and dimes you, because they're going after their retirees. They know you got down here and you got money, and so they want to gimme, 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 gimme. Bama's a lot more forgiving. Tim Lacey, hello to Paris, Tennessee, and the world's biggest fish fry. Awesome. Springer Carnage, hello there. Brother Jonathan Frisbee, be safe, brother. Take care. I'm here if you need me, brother. Charles Martin, I'm the same way. I love to cook, but I normally I'm cooking just for me, or I'm cooking for the wife, but I love to cook, and that's one of the ways I ingratiated myself into several hunting camps, was I volunteered to cook. And everybody get up in the morning, they go, I got food ready, they all go, and etc., and everybody starts staggering back in at 9:30 or 10 in the morning. Oh, I didn't see nothing, whatever. And then I would have them cold camp lunches, and I'd slip out the back, at about 10:30 or 11, and I'd stalk hunt, and I'd hunt then till about 3 or 4, and I'd come back about the time all of them were coming out to go sit in their stands and do the last hunt, and I'd give them a report of what I've seen or whatever, and I'd cook supper. Well, I got actually more hunting time than they did. But if they do want to cook, I'll cook. I got no problem. LA is a good place. Seen the boll weevil down there. Yep. Oh, yeah, Cowboy Kent Rollins. He's got 2 or 3 things, I think, on sourdough stuff. Fred, glad to do it. Oh, yeah, the float trip on the Yellowstone River, that'd be awesome. Tim Pierce, hello to Eastern North Carolina. Blackie, looking for something different in cap and ball. Would you recommend a Spiller and Burr or 62 Pocket Police? Pocket Police. The Spiller and Burr is a historic design. It's okay, but it does have a design flaw, and that design flaw is the face of the cylinder and the face of the breech, or excuse me, face of the rear of the barrel, force cone, are so close together that when it fires, that pressure hits and runs up, because here's the word hit, boom, and then it turns and runs up the top strap and blows straight back toward you. And the caps, so you're firing this one, it's the caps on the 2 other side, blows them off if you do any kind of thing above like a 10 or 12 game charge. And I mean, blows it off with enough force, it'll hit your knuckle and leave a bruise, because it'll catch the cap and throw it at you. And that was the disadvantage I had. I never could find a way to fix that. I tried relieving and opening that up, and if you look at my videos on the Spiller and Burr, I talk about that. But of those 2, get a 62 Pocket Police. You'll be happier. Or how about a Pocket Navy? Same gun, it just don't have that slim line cylinder and barrel. If you can find a Pocket Navy, does the same thing as a Pocket Police, just a more classic look to it. Chris Evans, got you. Elron says just send them send them a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they'll send you the starter sample for free. That's pretty cool. Springer, how do you like your PB&J? Anything special? I'm assuming you're talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I actually am more of a purist. I never was one that got into peanut butter and jelly. I like peanut butter, and if I did want jelly, it was apple jelly, is what I preferred. But I've had peanut butter and marmalade. I've had peanut butter and strawberry. I've had all of the above, and I just never got to really like the jelly on it. Jelly goes on biscuits, as far as I'm concerned. And so, if there's going to be something on the peanut butter, how about banana? Peanut butter and banana is actually a pretty good combination. Keep all 3. Love my Pocket Police. I had a set for a long time that was the 1860 Army Sheriff 5-inch barrel, and then the Pocket Police in a little case set I made up, and I had to part with it quite a few years ago. But I had a full case set of the 2 of them that I made up. Perfect set to go together. Tim Funk, hello to Pennsylvania. Vegemite, yeah, there you go. There's a challenge for you. Yes, Ted, I've been to Pennsylvania many times, all over Pennsylvania. Uh, Peanut butter and honey is good. Whenever I was a trucker, I was going through Philadelphia or going through, somewhere in the dang Pennsylvania mountains a lot. You know, my biggest memory of going through Pennsylvania was in the middle of the night one night, and there was a guy running up ahead of me. And we were talking back and forth on the CB radio, and he crested the top of that ridge, and he said very calmly, Roadrunner, my handle, Roadrunner, you're going to hit a little headwind. Be ready. Well, when I topped that ridge, that 70-mile-an-hour headwind hit me and slapped my mirrors down flat on the cab. I thought the windshield was going to crack. It was like you just, like when you hit water or something. It was that severe. I'll never forget that. And that was in them Pennsylvania mountains, and it was a big storm moving through, and all that wind was roaring up a valley. And I just topped the hill right into like a 70-mile-an-hour wind. And you're doing 70 this way, and it's doing 70 that way. That's a whole lot of pressure. So I remember it. Tim Pierce. North Carolina folks need to have a gathering before it gets too hot and humid. Lost Ways, you guys are out. Lost Ways is up there in them Carolina mountains, and they've wanted us to get together and do something up there. So get with them. Lost Ways, that's Paul Christopher and them. You look on Facebook and look up Lost Ways, and they're a group out of there. Organize something. We'll get something together. I'll come up there. Gary Graham, apple butter. Apple butter is too good to waste on a mere peanut butter sandwich. I mean, you don't understand what a rare thing even here of apple butter was when I was a kid. There was peanut butter everywhere. We got the old U.S. government issue peanut butter, and then big old can surplus. You'd crack open the can and tip it, and oil would pour out of it for 5 minutes. And Granny had saved like that much of a mason jar of oil coming out of it. And then we'd have peanut butter sandwiches for a month off of it. Apple butter. That was a rare commodity. Nutella, never saw that until I was grown. I remember going up in New England somewhere. I want to say it was Connecticut, and one morning at getting breakfast in a truck stop, they said, "What kind? You want some jelly?" I said, "Sure." And they threw apple butter up there, and I had never had apple butter. That was, wow, that was new stuff to me. Peanut butter banana sandwich, awesome. That was Elvis Presley's favorite snack, was a peanut butter and banana sandwich. But it had to be Sessions peanut butter. And I know that because my daddy worked for Sessions Peanuts in my hometown, Enterprise, Alabama. And Elvis Presley would buy a full case, and they would ship it to him. He always wanted it fresh. He wanted it because he'd eat a couple of jars, and so he wanted so many jars and wanted them fresh. He didn't want to be sitting on a shelf for long because the flavor actually dims when brand new made. It tastes the best it ever will. Elrod, tell Bear where you send the envelope to. If you got an address for the envelope for him to send it for the sourdough starter sample. Charles Martin, I fully agree. Sewing, baking, cooking needs to be everybody's skill. Well, hello, Robert. Good evening. Sasquatch Jimmy Outdoors. I'm down for a WNC gathering. Sounds good to me. Yes, Jerry, there is that mountain readiness thing. I went to that last year. John, Blackie, all you truck drivers down there, anyone ever see anything kind of strange on the road or woods or something that we've been told don't exist when we were kids? You see a lot of stuff you don't know whether it's you're tired or whether it's real or what. You know, it just depends on how tired you are, but you never know. You can see things. And then there have been things, like they'll tell you that there are no jaguar in America. And yet one got killed in Mobile not that many years ago, hit by a car. And they say, well, somebody's pet. Did anybody mention a $200,000 pet being missing or hurt? No. And so jaguar, which I've told stories about, I've told many times, there's many weird things in my woods down here. We got a silverback gorilla walking around in lower Alabama. Just do a Google search for gorilla in Alabama. It'll come up. It's where he was part of a thing down in Florida, two of them, a couple other apes, and it got tore up in one of the hurricanes, and they got loose. We had ostriches running around down here because a big ostrich farm got tore up by a tornado. We've got all kinds of weird stuff running around the woods down here. So we don't get upset about it anymore. We go, oh, that's what it is. Yeah. There was a Bigfoot looking team showed up to a big cattle company not far from me because they were having tracks and they couldn't figure out what they were looking at. And they came in and was serious about their investigation, so they figured out it was the tracks of a silverback gorilla, and then they weren't interested. They just loaded up and left then. But it's okay to have a silverback gorilla walking around in the woods of lower Alabama, but that's not interesting. Love it. Brett Johnson, how long will factory sealed peanut butter last on a shelf until it's inedible? At least 10, 15 years. At least. The oil content. As long as it's sealed up, it ain't moldy, it's good. It lasts nearly forever. It'll just taste the absolute best when it's within like a month of being made. After that, it kind of levels out, and it never tastes bad, but you know what I mean. Washburn Billy, thank you very much and sleep well. Oh, yeah, Gray Wolf. We found the big old number 10 cans that was U.S. Army issue peanut butter from beginning of World War II, like 1939, 1940. And they were found in a church whenever I was a teenager, which you're talking about, man, a little older than teenager, about 81, 82. I was in high school. And the church found it in their basement. And they were asking, was it still good? And the old preacher said, let's open it up. They popped the top, poured the oil off of it, and it was fully edible. It was 40 years old, so it lasts. It's one of the things you can put up. It's going to be there for a while. Spring camper, y'all got any Apaches flying down there? Dude, we're next to Fort Rooker. That's where they teach them to fly Apaches. So you got Apaches, you got Blackhawks, you got all kind of them flying down here. Brett Johnson, you can learn how to sew by hand. And then if you looked at my video, if you can still get a hold of one of those Chinese stitchers like I use, just get rid of that little stand, put it on a big board, clamp it to a table. Super easy to learn how to work that thing. You can sew anything. It'll sew leather, it'll sew canvas, it'll sew whatever. So best, I paid like $85 for mine. I think they're up to like 120, 125. So if you can get a hold of one of them and you just oil it up, it runs. If you got any mechanical ability, you can keep that thing running almost indefinitely. Wow. Paladin, you said you had Jif peanut butter go rancid within 2 years. Had it been opened, some sort of bacteria get in there and, you know, a wild something get in there. Tibor, good evening. Doing well. John, I hear you. Yeah. Simple Sojourner. Whenever I got mine, I went ahead and just took them, went on to Amazon and ordered me like 10 sets of needles. And I think it was like 5 needles per set. So I've got a supply, you know, and I think I broke 3 total. And that was due to my laziness. When I went to take it, I pulled the material out too fast and bent and broke the needle instead of feeding the line and taking it out slow. If you pay attention, it should last a good long time. Wow, Paladin. That's the kind of thing I'd take back. You know, I don't know what the exact expiration date is on them, but they should not have gone bad like that. Springer, what's your favorite William Collins knife? There are so many. Of course, I love my Blackbird. I love the prototype, and the neck knife, the Gray Man, all of them. You know, it's like trying to pick from your own children. You know, each one is so great at its job, and I just love the way it works and how it feels in my hand. Um, and so for me, that like I said, trying to pick which child you love best. You know, there are the momentary favorites, and then there's ones that's best ones for the job. But I haven't found one yet I didn't truly like in some way. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a friend of his. I'm serious. That's just that much. I enjoy it. John, what's the best type of sewing machine to look for used? I can't answer that. I really don't know. My first machine was an old foot power treadle machine. I still got it. It was made in 1892, I believe, and I learned to sew on it and did all my sewing when I was doing living history, and we were making our own costumes. I was using that machine. My wife would get the $300 Singer sewing machine, and she would use it like twice, and then it wouldn't work, and she'd have to take it in for repair. And she'd be coming to me, can I borrow the old machine to finish this project? And I finally pointed out to her, I said, honey, you're sewing on my machine 10 to 1 what that $300 machine. It's got nylon gears. And so you start trying to sew on something heavy, and the gears distort and it quits sewing. You know, mine is old and mechanical, and just put some oil on it and it runs. And then I got that little one I've showed in videos, that Chinese stitcher, and she runs the treadle machine, and I run the stitcher now. So I ain't letting her have my machine now, but she can use it, so to speak. I mean, we are married, but I mean, I've had that thing since I was 9. I mean, come on. Yeah, the guy, I don't know if it's true anymore. Okay. But you could always just call and ask. But the Singer machine business, just look up Singer Sewing Machines, Enterprise, Alabama. There's a sewing shop over here. And the guy that owned it had collected over 300 of the old treadle machines. as people would bring them in wanting to get rid of them and etc. So he collected over 300 of them. And a friend of mine wanted really bad to get a treadle machine because he wanted to sew heavy canvas and make haversacks and stuff like that to take and sell. And he couldn't afford a modern, industrial machine. And after we sewed several projects on mine, he fell in love with mine. And so we went down there and he sold him a fully running and everything set up antique Singer sewing machine for somewhere around $150, And whenever he moved away about 12, 14 years ago, to my knowledge, he was still using that machine, still sewing. So, you might want to call it, if you want one of them old Singer machines, just look online, see if Antique, some places got one. At one time, the military surplus place over here, Kaufman's, had one of them old treadle machines sitting there for sale. And I think they even had the little electric motor you plug it in that you can get. But you might call them and see if they got one they want to get rid of. Simple Sojourner, you saw one online? Yeah. Do I shoot any slingshot? Not anymore. I did when I was young. Someone gave me a slingshot not long ago, a year or two ago, and I played with it a little bit in the backyard. And I just simply don't have the eyes for it anymore. I could hit a woolly mammoth. Anything smaller than that, it becomes iffy, But they're fun to play with. Cool. Yeah, Tim Pierce working an old CF90 pack. Need to try atlatls. I have done atlatls. There was a archaeologist here in Alabama that was part of Russell Caves, that he was big into atlatl. And I will tell you this, and they will call me a liar. Okay? There is this thing they find in the historic record. It's a flat disc of a rock with a hole in it. And the hole is tapered, wider, like a funnel. Okay? These rocks are about a finger thick and about maybe that big. Okay? Back in the 80s, that archaeologist was arguing from Russell Cave that if you slid one onto an atlatl dart and you slid it from back to front, okay, so it would kind of wedge up on it toward the head, it added greater mass. And so when you were trying to throw it really hard onto something like a hay bale, which would be what they were hunting, a big animal like a buffalo or something, it would penetrate a lot deeper, because when it hit, all that mass would hit, and the shaft would then come loose and go on in because it would slide up. So I'm saying the weight wasn't fixed in a place. On impact, it would stop at the skin, but the momentum it transferred made it penetrate a lot better. And he would do a demonstration, one of them big old huge hay bales. He'd get up there with the atlatl with the dart and throw it just, as hard as he could, and it'd stick like that deep into that dense hay bale. He'd then slide the weight onto it and rear back and throw it, and the thing would come out the other side. He said, this is the big game adapter to put on an atlatl. And I have said that to many atlatl throwers, and they've called me a liar. Oh, no, that was for a chunky game. No, he figured out what it was used for. You'd carry them along and put them onto your shaft when you came up on something. Remember, they were hunting like woolly rhino, big, huge buffalo, sloth, all kinds of big animal that's now long gone. And it was what those were good for penetration. And so it's like you shift an armor-piercing round. Well, that atlatl weight would fit onto it, and you take it, when you throw it, you can throw it a whole lot harder because, yes, it's shorter range, but it's because you were trying to penetrate a thick hide animal at close range. Think like a Russian boar, 1 inch thick hide. You know, if that atlatl is only penetrating in that deep on a hay bale, which is a whole lot softer than 1 inch thick of tough hide, you need something to have mass to punch it in. So try it sometime. I've had several people, when I've told them that, either call me a liar, said forget it, no such thing ever existed. I was dealing with an archaeologist back in the 80s from Russell Cave, which is an archaeological site here in Alabama, who was one of the top archaeologists in the state at that time. I can just tell you what he and I talked, and he was showing me as a demonstration at Fort Toulouse in about 1986. So, Springer, have you ever tried tobacco? Yes. Smoke a pipe occasionally. Brett Johnson, well, thanks for stopping in. Have a good night. Yeah, high brass atlatl. Gray Wolf, exactly. That's the reason we were experimental archaeologists. The academics couldn't often understand what they were looking, and they would come to us who were actually doing this stuff with the gear and everything and find out how we'd figured out what it was actually useful. You know, they Doug Rogers came to Fort Toulouse and did a big slideshow display and was asking us reenactors to help the academics because they had these bags. They're called bandolier bags, and they're just after contact. We're talking about 1500s, early 1600s, and it was what was here from the natives before the Europeans got in here. And they were these small bags of 6-8 inches, maybe 8-10 inches tall, maybe 6-8 inches wide, little bitty strip, braided up to be a strap, and it was a small bag like we'd think of like a bandolier bag or a haversack. And they carried their fire kit and small things because none of their clothing had pockets. They never evolved pockets. And so that was their pocket to carry their little fire kit, their little blade, their whatever, you know, think Utsi type stuff. But these were made out of cordage. They were twined. And the very few that they had found had been collected and were now in big time museums, and they had been collected by Spanish or European explorers back in the 1500s, early 1600s. And then they go away very quickly because Indians started getting blankets, and they were unraveling the blankets and reweaving them the way they knew how to weave and making what's called bandolier bags. And since it's just twisted cordage, it doesn't survive in the ground. I mean, it rots. It's just grass. And so they couldn't figure out how they were making it. And so they asked us there's only one seam. It's along the bottom. And so you got a full strap, a bag, and only one seam on the bottom. They couldn't understand how they made it. And so we began playing with the idea, and I figured out how to make a loom that we could make it because this had to be pieces. And I made up in the next 2 months, I made up one that looked like theirs and then took it up to Doug Rogers, and he was all excited. And I understand when you went to somewhere, one of those academics, it was either Montevallo or North Alabama, or maybe it was Alabama, that when you went into their history department, there was that bag that I made hanging up. And they did a video of me going step by step and explaining how they did it in nature. And but that's one of them things that they didn't know how the hell. They're academics. They're book guys. And so they needed somebody like us that was hands-on to figure out how to do it. Banner stone. Okay, cool. Down here in my part of the South, Benton, we call them chunky stones because apparently they think there was a game they played with it, but they never could explain why there's a tapered hole in all of them. Well, that archaeologist said because it fits on the shaft. You know, it's reason you find them out in the middle of nowhere. Well, they were hunting something, you know, and they threw it and it stuck into whatever. And when it took off, plus, let's look at a little bit of anatomy here. You take your tapered atlatl dart. You don't need a fletching if it's going to be really close range, right? You need the fletching for long range. So if it's tapered, like this chopstick is tapered, and I slide it on here like, I swear I don't set this up ahead of time, guys. It's just my mind goes in that. There's a washer. If I slid it on there and it went up to where it would sit like that, okay, and it'd be tight on there, it gives me mass. I can throw it, and on impact, boom, it would slide into there, much deeper impact, and then the shaft would continue on. See? Well, that could fall off, or it could stay there as a weight. And that's now inside the animal. And as the animal's bucking and stuff, that internally is doing that, doing more damage to them, wouldn't it? So that weight of them running, especially that weight was out here on the end, is going to be sawing this more, and it's doing more internal damage to them. That's just simple anatomy. But the academics, they're shooting at a hay bale. You know, they're not trying to kill a cow with it and find out if it works. Cosmonaut, like to get an air rifle for casual hunting. Air rifles can be very viable, especially the 22 calibers. A 22 caliber air rifle that propels the bullet beyond 800 feet per second. 22 short out of a standard rifle is around that speed. So you're hunting with the equivalent of a 22 rifle with the short cartridge in it, and which is fine for rabbits and squirrels at 25 yards, 30 yards, close range stuff. So if an air gun can beat a 22 caliber and beat 800 feet per second, it's equal to a 22 for short range stuff. Yeah, great. Well, I've heard several people say, well, it was for flexing them. Yeah, I'm sure that would, but you wouldn't find thousands of them. Those things take a little bit of time to make. You got to sit there with a rock and peck a hole in another rock and sand it down to it's a certain thickness and it's a certain size. That sounds like a whole lot of work for something I could just, you know, make a hole in a stick and be able to pry with for leverage, heat it up over the fire and straighten a shaft. That's a lot of work on a rock for that. And you find thousands of them. You know, it's a lot of times you find atlatl points and you find those stones. Big game hunting. That's a big game additive to make it penetrate better. But the academics have not made the connection yet. Springer, thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed the one about polishing the blade. Your theory on what they call nut stone, made from sandstone or similar rocks. Some are deeper than a nut and of a uniform diameter. There's a lot of that stuff that was probably used for some sort of grinding or unification. You've got a wood mortar and pestle. Okay. You put small iron stones or hard stones into it, and you go to twisting. Those stones roll around and help break down grain. So there's a pounding that you pound down to a powder. But if you're not trying to pound it to powder, if you're wanting to turn it into something like meal, you put small stones in it and you sit there. Once you broke it up, you put the stones in there and you start rolling around, let the stones, and the stones become the spacer, so to speak, between the two. And I know that from Ginger, the living history that did Native American there at Fort Toulouse. She was the one that was talking about that, putting small stones in there, and it would grind it to a certain size. You know, by the size of that stone would give you the size of the grain you were making, and just sit there and start doing like that. And the stone will grind down the stuff. You'll make some powder, but you'll also make a thicker grain, a coarser grain. So I think those little bitty small rocks like you're talking about, those nut stones, I think that's what they were for. That's where they came out of, those type of grinders they had. Correct, Gray Wolf. Again, put it onto a pump drill. It would have multiple use. We see that and we recognize that that could slide on and be a perfect weight for a pump drill. But then you find these that are smaller and too light. Well, it's too light for a pump drill for this. Yeah, but it'd be perfect on an Adelaide. It's the same technology. It's where they're applying it, see? You know, if you took a big one, that thick and that wide, and made a taper hole and put you a great big old post up to the middle of it and put on top of a slab, you know, with a center divot to put on it where the two stones would turn together, you've got a grinder to grind grain. Put a hole in it, we throw a handful of grain up there and start turning it, and you have a little trowel for the stuff to come out. You make almost like an industrial grinder. It was the same technology, just scale it up or scale it down. Primitive man was a big fan of learn this and just scale it. You know, basket weaving. Once you understand the basis of it, of how I line it up and start it. Well, I need a long basket. Okay, well, I make longer pieces and crossways this way. I need a square basket. All right. I need a tall basket. All right. And then you just look around and apply whatever material you have to make the basket. See? So it wasn't like there was only one. We think of styles, you know, that there is a design, you know, the design of something. And then you have another radical different design of something. They didn't do that. They just would scale up or out to fit whatever it was. And so you see so many pottery pots that are the same design, they're just bigger in size. Or they're a little taller, a little narrower. It's just how they made it, because they would scale it to the side. On hunting, you know, they began with the same idea of doing this. You scaled it down, you did small game. You scaled it up, you did big game. You know, the blowgun would be the better choice for small game. Quiet, move up close. You got a bird on a tree or something, squirrel on a tree, blow a dart and pin him to the tree. It'll harpoon right through him and into the tree. And then you go up and pull him off the tree. He's dead, or will be dead in a moment if he's not. Those guys can be very, very accurate. I remember the National Geographic did a entire special one time, and they were talking, the main focus was this primitive culture down in the Amazon. And they were talking about a blowgun, and they had asked the maker to make them a blowgun from scratch, and they were going to videotape it. And so the film crew is down there watching this guy select the wood, split it, start cutting the channel and everything. He's using all stone tools and stuff. And the guy's like 6 or 7 year old son came up and wanted to borrow daddy's blowgun to go hunting. So one of the film crew split off to follow the kid. And this is like a 7-year-old kid, and this blowgun is 7 feet long. So the kid leans it up on his shoulder. He swings up his little leather pouch that's got a shell in it with curare in it and the darts. And he goes walking, you know, and the film crew followed him. And they followed him about a mile or two back into the jungle, and he stops and he's looking up and he sees a monkey, like a good size 25, 30-pound monkey. And he takes one of the darts, he digs the tip around into the curare, he slides it up into the blowgun, he's sitting there and looking up, and then suddenly brings it up, just as he's holding it straight up. He just, about like that. I mean, there was no balancing out. He just, the second it touched his lips, he went poof. And 110 feet up, the best they can guess, because they later use a laser edge finder onto the limb the monkey was sitting, holding on to when the kid hit him. It hit him at the junction of the neck and the spine and went up into his brain. And the monkey fell 110 feet. When he hit the ground, the kid walked over and ripped a vine off, took the monkey's tail, bolted up, tied a quick knot onto the tail, went around his neck, picked the tail up like a strap, and slung the monkey on his back and went walking back to camp to give Mama the monkey to cook. And the BBC guy said, I want you to understand what you just saw. That kid was standing on the sidewalk and just shot through a 10-story window and killed you. If you'd been standing in a 10-story window and he was on across the street on the sidewalk, he could have shot in that window and killed you with that blowgun. He's a 7-year-old. Imagine the skill of those people. We have lost so much in pure skill that they had. Andrew, hello there. Charles, good night. Enjoy your dinner. Jeff, make you another peanut butter and banana sandwich. I think I'm going to go make me one when I get done. We got an hour and 26 minutes. We're going to give it about 20 more minutes and we'll call it quits for the night. Blackie, would wet vacuum sealing, then freezing be a viable way to make a couple of servings of beans? And then, yes, cook them, put them in the seal meal, vacuum seal it down, and then freeze it solid. And what I do is I freeze food I'm going to take out to camp. When it's solid as a rock, I pull it out of the refrigerator. And I will then wrap it one time. It's already in a bag, right? I'll go one time around it with aluminum foil, and then I'll run newspaper around it like twice. And then that will go into like a small garbage bag into the cooler to keep water away from it. See? And that multiple layers, it insulates it. If my water level comes up, it doesn't sopping wet the bag and etc. You know what I mean? And so I've had frozen meals last sometimes 2-3 days in the proper conditions in my cooler, and still be relatively cold, if not still frozen, when I took them out to heat them up. And then since it's in that bag, you can immersion heat. Bring you up a pot of water, put the bag in it, bring the pot of water to boil, let it boil about 15 minutes, and that will have thoroughly heated. Of course, cut the bag open so you got a little drain at the top. Let air steam out. And when the beans are hot, just take it, sit it into another container, cut the top out, and eat straight out of the bag. And then you got a clean pot of water. I have last gathering, not this one, but the last one, I used the same pot of water the entire week. I just would bring it up to heat with my little Trangia. I'd put meal into it and I'd immersion heat. When I got done, I'd pull it out and set it in the lid, eat it out of the bag, and throw the bag away. Still had clean pots. Then in my hot water, I dipped my spoon that I ate with and clean my spoon with the hot water. That same water was used the whole week to heat my meals. Wow, New Zealand Outdoor Blades. Hello. Thank you for dropping in. Cosmonaut, I just made myself a sausage, tomato, and cheese sandwich for dinner. Oh, y'all are trying to make me hungry now. I can tell. Beans, onions, and cornbread for supper. Oh, yeah. Dang it, I hadn't made cornbread in a while. I need to make me some cornbread I like it for a snack, baked cornbread. I got some honey cornbread I've been wanting to throw together. We'll see. All right, Bear, thanks for dropping in, brother. Have a good night. Now, like I said, I will be here next Thursday night. And since Buckeye Bushcraft asked, I will be doing another run of my bags. Will be starting this Saturday, day after tomorrow. I will make the official video. I am going to do, I've got a video I've already shot that's a standalone on, remember I've talked about I'm redoing all my bag videos and stuff to get current information on it. I will be posting that video on Saturday about 11 a.m. It will have the contact information on it so you can place an order. If you're watching this and you want to go ahead and jump in and get ahead of everybody on this order, down in the description box, I got it in there. It says if you want to order a haversack, go to Scalp Hunter. And I will be tomorrow going through all of those emails on there and sending to you a current price list, how to order, etc. So if you want to get in on it, that's the best way to do it. We'll do it tomorrow. Tim Pierce, have you ever seen the K-Bar Sport? Yes, I have. I like them, but honestly, I like the spoon to be a little bit bigger. I like to shovel a little bit more, but it's nice. It really is. It's very handy. I like the little folding hobo knife sets. I've got one that's all metal. I got from Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and it rides in my Trangia stove set, and you stainless steel. You just click, pull the two halves apart, and you got a knife and fork, and you got a spoon and a knife, and on this one you get the fork and the can opener, and you can eat with it. And then they're stainless steel, so they're easy to clean up, maintain the field, and they lock back together in the pocket knife form. It fits in there really well. South Parson, Blackie, what do you like to use for seasoning cast iron skillets? I like to use lard, that or peanut oil, but lard is my favorite, to be honest. I love to just put a light coat on it and heat it up. Just as it starts to smoke, if I'm doing it on a campfire, just as it starts to smoke, I'll pull it off and I'll wipe a little back on it and put it back on. And as long as the surface stays shiny, like it's wet, I keep it going. If it starts to dry, I'll dab a little extra on it. And you'll watch it darken and darken and darken and get darker. Or you can do it like Bear likes to do. Coat it, sit it in the oven, bring it up like 200 degrees, leave it in the oven about 45 minutes, pull it out, make sure you're using mitts, recoat it, put it back in, and then turn the heat off and let it go all the way cold. And then when you get it out that time, just wipe out any excess and cook in it, and you'll be fine. Cosmonite, I discovered your channel because of the M65 field jacket. That's one of my best videos. And going to be getting one of the woodland ones next. Awesome. Those are, be sure in my M65, be sure to go look in the Ground Pounder series, because mixed into the Ground Pounder series is other videos about the M65 field jacket. One of them I show how to turn it into a pillow, and a couple other things. So just look around. Eric Vader, thank you very much for watching. Andrew, what do you keep in your muzzleloader shooting bag? Just wondering. It depends on whether I'm toting the shotgun. If I tote the shotgun, I've got pre-made up cartridge and shot sets already put together. So I can just pull out, put in powder, card, shot, card, cap, bang. If it's rifle, then I will take my pillow ticking, pre-grease it, and then I'll put a series of round ball into it, pull it up tight with a thread, and like equivalent of sewing them on. So when you pull up the strip, it's just a strip of them. That way I can just center it up over the muzzle, whack, and cut it off, quick and easy. And then for cap and ball, they may be black powder cartridges. They may be pre-measured shot tubes, whatever. I have to vary it by what I'm carrying, but I always am going to have a powder source. I don't like to carry a flask if I can avoid it. I prefer to carry pre-measured charges, unless I'm going to a range, in which case I'll carry the flask. But for actual hunting, I prefer pre-measured charges in some form because that usually is the most compact and easiest way to go. Living in the outdoors. Hello there. Charles Martin, Blackie, do you ever use those Mountain House meals, the freeze-dried one? I have, and they can be pretty good. I like the chicken and rice is my favorite of those. They can be actually pretty good. But now here's a little secret. Next time you're at Walmart, walk over to the soup aisle and look in the soup section, and there's these just add water, darn good chili. It's a vegetarian bean chili, but it actually tastes really good. And there's several others, and they're basically freeze dried. You know, it's like $3 for 8 servings. And I'll take those to the field a lot of times. And I've done several videos in my cooking videos about it. And I will just bring X amount of water to boil. And once the water's boiling, I'll add in the soup or the chili or the whatever and just stir it up. And then just simmer it for 5 minutes and I'm ready to go. And that's much better to me in many ways than those bag meals, which are $8, $9 a piece. And I can walk over here and that's 2 servings. That's 8 servings for $3. And just take a Ziploc, you know, a gallon Ziploc bag or a quart Ziploc bag and do the same thing for me. Oh, you had to do a field repair on your Nighthawk. Weak spot in the thread. Ended up repairing it with some bank line. Jerry, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you got it repaired. Oh, Tom's Outdoor, you like that cornbread? Yeah, that was good stuff. Somebody donated that. They'd come down from Tennessee. We've got a Polk Mill down here that makes almost the same stuff. It's just really good stuff. Cool. Well, guys, that's an hour and 36 minutes. We're pushing 140. I think we're going to call it quits because now y'all done made me hungry. And I think I'm going to go in and either cook me some cornbread or make a peanut butter sandwich. We're going to argue on that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I love all the comments and love spending time with you. And I look forward to it every week. I really, really do. Like I said, I will be here next week, next Thursday night, same bat time, same bat channel. And then for those that'll be going to the South Georgia Budget Bushcraft overnight camp out at, I believe it's Paradise Public Fish Camp area, public fishing area. I'm going to be going to that early Saturday morning. I'll be rolling in over there probably about 8 or 9 in the morning. I'll camp then. I'll try to get some video and give y'all a report on that. Till next time, guys, thank y'all so much for all your support. Safe journeys. God bless. I'll see you next time.